All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
Welcome back to the Loose Wheels Show. I'm Andrew Hayes with That's Ethan Ignatowski. Episode
What's
21.
up?
Got a lot to talk about and a little bit of time because Ethan told me he has to do something at some point.
And now for last week's race reviews.
So, into the reviews. Indy 500. To start off, we had the worst thing, well, one of the two worst things in motorsports, a rain delay happening. And then Scott McLaughlin lost it on warm up, trying to warm up tires. So that uh, kind of delayed the start even more. Scott Dixon had a brakes issue where they were on fire. Turned out that, well, it didn't hurt him in the race. Lap 5 start and crash with Marco Andretti after going 5 wide. Uh, there's not enough room on the racetrack to just do that. Some of the back markers pit there, and then they kind of got off strategy, which affected during the race a little bit more. Pato O'Ward gets the lead on the restart, then followed by Takuma Sato getting the lead before a rain caution. And then we had a uh in on the pit lane, Sato held the lead, and then it was Dixon, Schwartzman, and Larson, I believe, lost, but no, it was actually Ilott, not Schwartzman. Ilott, Dixon, and Larson lost big due to issues on pit road. And then we had a 7 cars stay out. This was the kind of like I said, the beginning of this alternate strategy breaking out. You had the three ECR cars of Rossi, Rasmussen, and Carpenter, followed by DeFrancesco, Harvey, VK, and Rahal. The not Carpenter, Rasmussen and Rossi swapped the lead a few times. You had green flag pit stops. Colton Herta had a drive-through for speeding. Rossi had a fire in the pits that eliminated his day. Venus VK lost brakes coming into pit road, so he crashed in the pits, ending his day. So under the yellow, we had Sato and had an issue, and then Schwartzman crashed on pit road, so that eliminated their that
He
the
didn't just crash on pit road. He crashed into his pit
yeah,
crew.
crashed into his pit crew on pit road.
Yikes.
We had a quartet of cars stay out. Uh, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Devlin DeFrancesco, Ed Carpenter, and Jack Harvey. And then on the ensuing restart, Kyle Larson spun, collecting the 77 of Stingray Robb and the 8 of Kiffin Simpson. And then we got going again. Hunter-Reay pit, and then DeFrancesco inherited the lead. Uh, we had the 21 of Rasmussen save his car. He was gonna spin, but he saved it. And the tower just jumped the gun on the caution there. Few pit, and then we get back going green. Uh, DeFrancesco uh, had the lead, and then that went inherited to Connor Daly. And we had a green flag cycle with Hunter-Reay leading afterwards. Newgarden had an issue of some sort that took him out of the race there. He was making a huge charge from the back, well, that we'll talk about more. Then I thought, okay, we might have a fuel race at this point with this second group trying to we with uh, Daly, Malukas, Pillow, and friends being close to whether or not they'll run out of fuel. Pillow was leading that group, and then Daly took it, and then we had Newgarden officially retire. Then Malukas took the lead of that group, and Connor Daly had a big vibration that took him out of contention. Uh, then he had to make a big save on fuel. Green flag pit stops. Ryan Hunter-Reay, who was leading his strategy, stalled it. And if he doesn't stall, he could have been in for a very good finish on with how it went down. Then Pelot gets the lead. Then Ericsson, he was Pelot was leading the group that had pitted, and then Ericsson came out with a lead. And then at this point, you had the lead lap cars of Devlin DeFrancesco and Louis Foster right in front of the leaders who were swapping the lead or their position multiple times. And some people are annoyed by they're like, why are these guys still here? They're ruining the race, da 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 da. And to that I say that's you're just complaining to complain because
No, no, that is fair. Like, obviously, they're allowed, and they shouldn't. They're not going to move out of the way. They don't have to move out of the way, so they're not going to do it. But it also did take away from excitement at the end of the race. Two things can be true at once.
I mean it did take away from excitement, but it's not something to complain about. It's like I
Yeah, it is. If it's not as exciting as it could be, you're allowed to complain about that.
it's part of racing, and if you don't like that racing, don't watch because
I think
the,
that's
these
that's a
guys
little too
are
much. Come on,
are
bro.
are entitled to it. If a caution comes
Obviously,
out,
and you're still allowed to not like it.
if as I was saying, if a caution comes out, they clearly are back on they're on the lead lap, so they stay on the lead lap, and that allows them to potentially try something different on strategy, and maybe contend for the win. Like there shouldn't be any rule changes from this. These people are complaining. It's fine how it is. I don't have any issue with it. So I don't like people on Twitter just need to take a chill pill. That's my opinion on this. Alex Palou did wind up winning. Now 5 for 6. My math is not mathing right now. I would give this race a solid 7 out of 10. Um, very good race. Not the greatest race I've seen, but still a very good race. Um,
I thought it was a good race.
I I
I
wish
enjoyed it.
there was a
It
little too
wasn't,
cautions at the beginning for my liking.
in my opinion, it wasn't as good as some of the other recent 500s, but it was still a good race.
And Scott McLaughlin uh for wrecking on the pace laps gets my Arca Breaks moment of the week.
Not what happened in F2.
Uh,
That was the most Arca. That was more Arca than Arca.
if you want to give the F2 grid your Sir Lancelot Medal of Excellence, you can. Um, but yeah, that's how I decided. I'm content with that. But Ethan, post race, or I guess that was Monday. Andretti and Prema penalized for Indy 500 tech violations. Per the series, during post-race inspections of car numbers 27 and 28, that's Kirkwood and Ericsson respectively, IndyCar discovered modifications to the dollar supplied energy management system covers and cover 2A arm mounting points with unapproved spacers and parts. According to the IndyCar rulebook, EMS covers must be used as supplied. Additionally, these modifications provided the compatibility of enhanced aerodynamic efficiency to both cars. Andretti Global was in violation of Rule 9.3.1, improper conduct. Any member to attempting to or engaging in unsportsmanlike conduct, unsafe conduct, or conduct detrimental to racing, IndyCar, and or to the NTT IndyCar series, whether during event on or off track, may be subject to penalties, and Rule 14.1.2 be questions to be submitted and answered via iris. Modifications must be approved 7 days prior to intended use. And yeah. And also
Yeah.
14.13, all parts provided by an approved supplier must be used as supplied without modification unless otherwise approved by Indycar and say in these rules or update bulletins. Basically, same thing that Penske was violated for, except to, I would say, a much more severe because we'll talk about that Penske's thing later. But yeah, this actually affected the race cars. And these two drivers were both disqualified. IndyCar being a spec series, some cars have to remain spec, or some parts have to remain spec. These are some that you can't change, and they changed them. Prema Racing was in violation of this, is back to what the series said. Rule 9.3.1, improper conduct. That is the same rule that I mentioned earlier, so I'm not going to mention that again. And these are, and along with Rule 14.7.6.8, front wing must adhere to the technical inspection dimensions. Failure of the left side minimum end plate height, and Rule 14.7.6.4, which requires end plates, wing flaps, and main planes to remain in the designated location. I'm not a technical genius, so I won't try to make heads or tails of what that is. Just something to do with the front wing, uh, which seems like they got some advantage of some sort as they were disqualified. That is the 90 car of Ilott. So your final three finishers were all disqualified, that being Ericsson, Kirkwood, and Ilott, respectively. Ethan, do you want to talk about Monaco?
Yeah, let's do it. So we had all the support, well, F2 and F3 were there. The sprint race for F3 was won by McLaren Junior Martinez Stenshorn. The feature race for Formula 3 was won by Bombaklat Tozlov. He won the sprint race last year. F2 sprint race Kushmiani, and the feature race was Jack Crawford, who won after like half the field had to retire on lap one, because Alex Dunn's race engineer was obviously not Jeff from the older F1 games.
Shout out
He
Jeff.
must not have been told no heroics into Saint Debat, because he, alongside Victor Martins, were on the front row of the grid. Martins got the better launch, and he had like total control of the racing line going into turn one. But Alex Dunn just just drove him completely off. I don't know in what world he thought that move was going to stick, and that caused a pile up, just a huge pile up. And like Alex Dunn, the more we've talked about F2 this year, and the more that I've like learned about his junior career and stuff, like he's a very good driver. I rate him as one of the tip top in F2 right now. But that was a move that was never going to happen. I have no idea what was going on there. So I think that should have been the Arca Breaks moment of the week. But I'll give him the Sir Lancelot Medal of Excellency, um, because it was deserved. Moving on to the main show, Formula One. Qualifying was very exciting. I mean, it's Monaco. It's the most exciting qualifying in F1, followed by the most boring race in F1. So, who got pulled? That would be Lando Norris with a new track record around the streets of the Principality. First man into the 109s.
And it's
Just
a
managed.
new track Record for Lando Norris.
Thank you for that, Andrew. He just managed to beat out Charles Leclerc, who had an amazing time during practices and qualifying, driving above that car. I mean, I don't know if it being his home race gives him a bit of
Speed boost.
a speed boost, but he's great around there. Um, and then Oscar Piastri was in third. So on to the actual race. With the short run down to turn one, there wasn't really anything going on. Lando did lock up briefly, but managed to keep everything under control, made the first corner easily, stayed in first place. Charles in second, Oscar Piastri in third. Max Verstappen gave him a look around the outside, but wasn't happening. And then we're going to fast forward to lap 78, where Lance Stroll passed Nico Hulkenberg for 15th, going around the outside at the Nouvelle Chicane. And that's the 2025 Monaco Grand Prix. Y'all, thanks for listening to my race recap. Wow, I wish y'all could see the face that Andrew is making on the Zoom call right now. It is quite a face.
You get a
But no, I'm
picture.
joking. I'm joking, but I'm also not really joking. It was a really, 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 really boring race. The mandatory two stops, it was a solid idea in practice, I think, but it just didn't work out. Teams found a way to abuse it. You had drivers, slowing down the entire field so that their teammates that were ahead of them could get, their two free pit stops, and there was switching off, and just the strategy of having one teammate back up so slow and just drive so slow to back up the entire grid, it just worked because even if you're going 75% or whatever, like you can't pass. You can't get past. So might as well, right? It's unfortunate, but from a team's perspective, it was a smart play. Going back to lap one, though, there was some more action. Kimi Antonelli made a pass around the inside, or down the inside, I should say, of Gabriel Bortoleto at the corner before the tunnel, and Bortoleto went straight on into the barrier. He was able to continue on with his race, of course, pitting for a new front wing, but he was able to continue on with his race. On lap 9, Pierre Gasly smashed into the back of Yuki Tsunoda coming out of the tunnel. It destroyed his front left. He was done. He said that, well, I want to clarify because some people thought that he was saying that his brakes failed before the incident. No, his brakes failed because his brake-by-wire system was no longer attached to the car after they made contact. Um, Before that, he said that he thought Yuki moved under braking. I I don't know. I don't think so. I think it was just Gasly was approaching too fast and they made contact. I don't know though, but Gasly had to retire. And after his incident, we started to see that teammate pit stop game that I was talking about earlier. Just teams gaming the system, taking advantage of how impossible it is to pass, and just driving super slow. I think that the Racing Bulls and Williams were the most egregious teams when it came to the strategy. I mean, at one point, Alex Albon was going so slow that George Russell literally just drove off the track and didn't take the Nouvelle Chicane. He just went straight. And then when the team was like, "Yo, George, you can't do that," he's like, "Nah, I don't care. I'm going to take the penalty. I don't care." And I mean, can't blame the guy. The stores did end up giving him a drive-through penalty, not a 10-second penalty, just because it was so egregious, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I still think that's a 10-second, but doesn't even matter. Who cares, honestly? Kimmy actually did something pretty similar too, but he gave the place back. Um, and just speaking of Mercedes, while I'm on the topic, they had a horrific race strategy. I mean, Andrew, it made the Mattia Binotto era at Ferrari, it made those strategists look like Albert Einstein. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. They had Kimi and George wait to do their two pit stops until like nearly the very end of the race. Horrible strategy. Like not that they would have made it into the points they might have actually. I don't know with how many retirements there was. Maybe. I don't know. Horrible strategy either way.
Yeah,
I guess they were the thought process was it doesn't matter if you finish 11th or 20th, you don't get a point. So fair enough, but like it didn't work, so it was a bad strategy.
I could be wrong here, and this could be like a Formula Fakers or something like that. But didn't Toto Wolff say something along the lines of, "Oh yeah, we forgot it was a two-stop race."
Uh he did say that, but it was for I didn't see the clip of him saying it, but everyone was saying that he said it very sarcastically. So like it wasn't a Kyle Shanahan Super Bowl moment. Like he knew the rules. Um
Okay.
it was just the strategy they did. Um Going back to the race though, on lap 38, Fernando Alonso, he retired. He was in sixth. Smoke was coming out the back of his car. Not ideal. So it was his third retirement of the year, and he is still without a point, Andrew. Kind of crazy. Um,
Lance Stroll have a point yet?
yeah, Lance Stroll has like 12 or something. I don't know. Look that up. Look that up. Um, But anyway, gonna jump ahead to lap 50 now. Lando pitted for his second time from the lead on lap 50. He came out in second because Max Verstappen was yet to pit his second time. And Max just stayed out all the way until the end of the race. He was literally just hoping for a red flag or something because, I mean, Lando was right on his tail. Um, and he was and Lando was intentionally going slower than he could full speed because like Max was ahead of him, and Leclerc was right behind him because Max was going so slow that Leclerc caught up, and it was just like he was sandwiched in between them, so he was going a lot slower, so that Max was like a second or so down the road, um, just because he didn't want to be sandwiched between them, which I thought it was smart. It brought a little bit of drama just because even if it is like impossible to pass, Leclerc was like still right on his tail. Um, but it's Monaco. Like unless Lando just drove into a barrier or something, nothing's gonna happen. So a little bit of drama, not really. I mean, Oscar wasn't there to apply pressure to Leclerc, which definitely made it a little more high stakes than it could have been. But like I said, like it's not even really high stakes. At the end of the penultimate lap, start of the final lap, Max did come into pit, and Lando, back in 2015 or 2016 when Fernando Alonso said, you can put a rocket ship on the back of the car. We're still P11. They must have put the rocket ship onto the back of the car, but they did not finish P11. Lando just flew with clean air. He put 2 seconds on Charles in just one lap, taking the fastest lap of the race as he crossed the finish line to win the Monaco Grand Prix. His first win at Monaco, McLaren's first win at Monaco since Lewis did it in 2008. So the rest of your podium and the rest of your top 10 was Norris, Leclerc, Piastri, Verstappen in fourth. Then you had Lewis Hamilton in fifth, who was so far behind the top four. I mean, like nearly a minute. I'm not sure why he was so slow. Then you had Isaac Hadjar just continually impressing me. Esteban Ocon, who is always amazing around Monaco when he isn't driving into his teammates at least. Then Liam Lawson, Alex Albon, and Carlos Sainz to round it out. Only 3 points separate Lando in P2 of the championship from Oscar in P1. And now it's time for me to put a rating on this Congo line. I mean, I texted Andrew and Morgan after the race. I gave it a 2.5. After further review, I'm knocking it down to a 1. I mean, 2.5 is honestly way too generous. Because the scale is from 0 to 10, right? It's
Well,
not from 1 to 10. I thought it was from 1 to 10. So after further review, we're making it a 1. And it doesn't need to be a 2.5. Like it doesn't need an extra point 0.5 or whatever. 1 out of 10. The only reason it's not a 0 is because it gets a point 0.5 boost purely because it isn't the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix. If you're a Formula One race and you're not the 2021 Belgian Grand Prix, I'm giving you at least a point 0.5. At least. It
mm-hmm.
gets another point 0.5 because the end was slightly interesting. Now, it might have been more interesting to me because I'm a Lando fan, but I'm also the one putting the numbers on things. And Andrew, I'm not very good at math, but I do know that point 0.5 plus point 0.5 is 1. So that's what it gets. It was an embarrassing race. In my opinion, Monaco needs to be removed from the calendar. It never will. It's too ingrained into the sport, but it's an embarrassment. And I think for me, one of the most infuriating parts is that the way that it makes Formula One perceived, because it's not like F1 needs help getting fans right now. Like Formula One is gaining fans at an incredible rate, picking up new fans all the time. I mean, like the wave of fans that have come into the sport right now is huge. And even before that, like I was part of, I would say the wave even before the current wave, like back in 2019, 2020. Um, so there's been a couple of waves of new fans flooding into the sport. It's not that. It's the way that it's an embarrassment to non F1 motorsports fans. I mean, it makes F1 a laughing stock in their eyes because the only Formula One race that they watch is Monaco, and they see Monaco and they see that it's absolutely atrocious, and they think that all of F1 is like that, which is really unfortunate because there's a lot of great races. I mean, even last week, absolute banger at Imola. Like such an amazing race, everything that you could want out of a good race. But because people only watch Monaco because, it I call it the greatest day in motorsports. It's the greatest day in motorsports. But Monaco is not holding its own, and we're going to get into it a little later in the show. What can maybe happen to improve it slightly? But like, I don't think anything feasible can improve the racing at Monaco unless the cars are considerably smaller. Like F2, that can work. Like F2 does work, but the current size of these cars makes it impossible to have good racing. Qualifying, like I said at the start of this little monologue, um, qualifying is very fun to watch for Monaco. But we're here because we want to see good racing, not good qualifyings. And that's my take on that. And
To
moving on to what I think was maybe it was the best race of the day. I enjoyed it. I
I
liked it.
that one.
I thought it was the best race. I
Lance
didn't think
Stroll
the IndyCar race was good, but wasn't. I don't think it was as good as the NASCAR race.
Well, I'm the one putting the numbers on these, and you're wrong. Lance Stroll has 14 points,
Okay.
by the way.
Okay,
Um,
I said 12. That's pretty close. If we're playing the prices right, I would have won because you said 0. Well, you asked, have you even got a point?
yeah, I don't know. I don't care to know Lance Stroll's points, quite frankly. Um, Corey Heim won the truck race. That puts him third all time in trucks wins behind Kyle Busch and I want to say Jack Sprague. I could be wrong, but regardless, the fact that actually I think it's Ron Hornaday, but but regardless, dude should not be in trucks. Xfinity, we had a guy who shouldn't be racing Xfinity, but that's another story for another time because Cup regular William Byron won the race. Into stage one, we had a very exciting first dozen laps where Larson, Byron exchanged the lead. And then in stage one, we had Kyle Larson spin from the lead, and then William Byron inherits the lead. And then we had another Hendrick driver spin and Alex Bowman, and then that ended the stage as Byron won stage one. Byron was first out in stage two. We had a wreck involving Jimmy Johnson, Connor Zilich, and Cole Custer. Then we had green flag pit stops. The ever talented Riley Herbst spun entering pit road. Uh, Kyle Busch spins, and then that was the caution that brought out then to stage two. So Byron won again. Byron first out again on pit road. Zane Smith he spun, and then he's the team's like, oh, SVG finished you off. Well, if you're wrecking already, a slight tap from the rear. You just accelerated the sink rate of a sinking ship here. And I don't even think he touched him, but
It
regardless,
didn't look like he touched him, in my opinion.
it might have been some arrow push, but still, the boat's still sinking. He just made the sinking a little bit quicker. Byron was first out. Uh, then we had a wreck between Suarez, Blaney, Larson, Haley, and Briscoe, and that ended Kyle Larson's double attempt where he um, didn't complete 600 miles. So yeah, most of the NASCAR field completed more miles than Kyle Larson on a racetrack. I,
Yeah, Larson not on he embarrassed himself. I'm just gonna leave it at that. He embarrassed himself.
I wouldn't say he embarrassed himself. He had well that on NASCAR side, yes. Car side,
Bro was making fun of uh Scotty Mack
that was
for
actually his
spinning out.
spotter.
Was it?
Yeah.
Mm. He did give him a thumbs up though, so he still did make fun of him. And then bro downshifts, um, well accelerating on cold tires, spins out into the wall. So I don't know. Come at me, Larson fans. Come at me. Giuliano, come at me.
Noah, come at him. Um, his NASCAR side was definitely embarrassing. I will give you that.
I will
Um,
say this though. I will say this though. I want Larson to continue doing the double every single year until he completes it. I think it's an awesome storyline to watch.
here's if I had the money, I would have blown it all by now, first of all. But if I did have this money that I'm talking about, I would throw on a $5 million bonus and a $1 million bonus. Actually, make it two. We'll make it two. And we'll make it one. Not gonna lose an extra million here. I'm gonna do 5 million for any driver who wins both, and then 1 million for any driver who completes all laps of both. Just to get some extra incentive and call it if I had like some company like whatever, uh we'll just call it the I'd call it the loose wheel challenge.
Yeah, and you would get a loose wheel show car for both the 500 and the 600. But unfortunately, we're two college students, and I think we have a combined net worth of not even a front suspension of an Indy car.
Yeah, my net worth is slim. So we Byron gets lead out off of uh, the uh, the caution pit cycle. Then Hamlin gets lead with 40 laps left in the stage. And then Byron gets lead late, and Byron wins stage three. Normally that would be the end of the race because the Coke 600 is the I don't know whoever designed said the Coke 600 needs to be 4 stages. Needs some brain work because it doesn't work. I hate it. The fans don't like it. I don't know how the drivers feel about it, but I think it's stupid. Um, uh, so we had another 100 lap stage, fourth 100 lap stage of the day. Great fun. Hamlin was first off, and Carson Hocevar, who was running at P2 at the time, had an engine issue, causing a wreck between himself, Busher, and Wallace. That's not through any fault of the driver. It's the engine deciding to not be an engine. Then got the lead. Then Hamlin got the lead. Then Byron got the lead before green flag pit stops. Then Reddick was speeding, and then he spun, but there was no yellow. Hamlin was low on gas, so he had to pit. And Ross Chastain, he slowly making his way up through the field from he started last on the grid, got up to lead, and won the race. I'm gonna give this race a 6 out of 10. It had plenty of boring parts. It did have some good parts, but here's the thing. A lot of people love Prime's coverage compared to Fox. They thought it was maybe
Oh yeah, it was amazing.
5 steps better. Me, not so much. I did like it
What?
more than Fox does. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's as big of a jump compared to uh, some of these others. Um, what I liked, obviously, was no cartoon graphics, so that's a start. No forcing of the booth to be cheesy, and the super long pre-race and post-race, even though I didn't watch any of that.
The pre-race and post-race stuff was really good.
But of the actual race, I don't. The booth's talent is about 4 steps down from where Fox is. I take
Mm.
Joy over Adam Alexander every day of the week. Um, Kevin Harvick, when he's forced to do those words of the week, gives great analysis. I think it's a few steps better than Letart's. And Steve Letarte, he's grown as a broadcaster, and I think this is his 11th year long, if my memory serves me correctly. He has gotten better. He has done a very good job at improving. I will give him credit where credit is due. However, this is where a lot of people will disagree with me, and a lot of people, quite frankly, are wrong here. Clint Boyer is a better broadcaster than Dale Jr. because
Nope.
Clint Boyer gives actual analysis. He is going to be a corny goofball, which, if you hate it,
It's a hard listen, Andrew. It's a
I
hard listen. Dale Jr., not a hard listen. It's as simple as that.
hold on. I don't mind the corny. I wish they didn't have to they didn't have to force it as much. I think that's more of a Fox thing. But here's the thing. Dale Jr. gives not much analysis whatsoever.
I thought his analysis was fine, honestly.
I and the thing that really irks me about Dale Jr. as 90% when he is talking, he is giving play-by-play. That is not his job. His job is to provide analysis primary. You can do a little bit play-by-play a little, but I don't want to hear you do play-by-play. That's not why they pay you. I'd rather listen to a guy who is a corny goofball that does give good analysis because Clint Boyer has done that in the past and he has shown that. Dale Jr. to me has not shown that. So when he doesn't give good analysis for part from what he does do it from time to time, but he doesn't do it to the level that I feel is ready. And quite frankly, as an analysis guy, I think he's an F. I'd give him an F as an analysis guy. As a play-by-play broadcaster, because he has done that in the past for NBC, I'd give him a D. He is decent at that. I think where Junior would be absolutely perfect is in a kind of a studio role like that you saw Carl Edwards and Corey LaJoy do. I think he would be an A at that. That's my opinion. A lot of people disagree with me, but I I think a lot of people like him because he's Junior. And I know not a lot of people are going to change their opinion on that. But when you listen to what he has to say, it doesn't say much. That's the end of the story for me.
All right, bro.
Um, Ross Chastain won. Like I said, I give the race 6 out of 10. A chicken award goes to the fan who tried to steal Ross Chastain's hat as he was driving post race. Oh, what are we doing? That's all I've got to say about that. And now, quickly, we will move into the best race that happened all weekend long, the Wienermobile 500. A two-lap event. Uh, New York Dog leads after Chicago Dog had a slow start.
Are we actually doing
Yes, I'm
this?
doing this, Ethan. It's there. I'm talking about it. It's going to take
Oh
2
my
minutes.
God.
Chicago Dog got the lead on the backstretch, and Sonoran Dog on the second lap got the lead in turn one. And then Sonora Dog, they blew their engine. It's not very good. That allowed Chicago Dog to re-inherit the lead. And then Slaw Dog, they got the lead in the final stretch, making an amazing race. I would give it 9.5 hot dogs out of 10. Quite simple there. Into the news now.
I thought that it was USA out of 10. I think it was the most American thing I've ever seen. I think it was the greatest thing I've ever seen, really.
That's fair. Uh, Getting distracted by my phone here.
The
Cindric,
Europeans could never.
yeah,
That's all.
the news.
And now for the news.
Tim Cindric, Ron Rzuski, and Kyle Moore let go from Team Penske. That was a Roger Penske decision. I think he was just fed up with two significant incidents with his team in 2 years. I think he said, "Okay, we aren't going to do this the right way. You're going to let go." And I think by this time next year, I think I'll see all three have roles somewhere in the paddock. I don't know where, but somewhere. Um, Other news with that, uh, the attenuator, why they messed with it was because the team didn't like the glue Dallara used and said, "That is ugly. This is not how we do
I'm
things."
so sure. I am so sure.
This is from Bozy. I don't know his how to pronounce his last
No,
name.
I believe that this is the story that they're going with. I don't
No,
believe that that is.
this is a well, that was what the team was. But Bozy, the IMSA crew guy, said, "Yeah, this isn't gonna affect them aerodynamically." And this is a dude who doesn't work for Team Penske, has a journalism job alongside his motorsport career. At his he writes for Motorsport, so this is like, oh, this isn't some guy saying things just to say things. This is backed up by credible sources who are a lot smarter aerodynamically and engineer. I don't know what the word is than I am.
Why would they why would they do something just for aesthetics, Andrew? It's racing.
Because this is a team who does everything perfect. Like there's an expression called Penske perfect. They want to cross their I's or cross their T's, dot their I's, dot their J's, so on and so forth. They want to get everything right. And if they say, "Oh, that looks ugly, I want to change it," they're gonna change. This is what they do. They do things like this. They want to make their cars look as best as possible for a reason. I don't. So I would say that the firings were kind of maybe a little bit extreme, maybe. But if that's how Roger wants it, operate his business with his Penske Perfect motto is no screw ups, so be it. He's had a lot more success than I have, that's for sure. Uh, Indy President J. Douglas Bowles says there will not be any changes to the 2024 Indy 500 results. So I think that's a good thing. Not changing things, especially seeing what the aerodynamic look to it is. I like it. It doesn't affect much, or it doesn't affect anything at all, rather. So yeah, I'm completely fine with this. I don't know about you, Ethan.
I don't think that um old results should be stripped. So yeah.
Moving on to your winner of the Indy 500, Alex Palou says IndyCar in his future is in his future and he's not going to F1. But Ethan Ignatowski, he indicates interest in competing in a NASCAR road course event. So I think that's two good moves for Alex Palou. Unless a big four team comes calling, I don't. If I were him, I wouldn't be signing contracts to go out to anywhere else.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't think
look,
any of the four teams are calling right anyway.
no, he's winning in IndyCar. Why would he go to be in the back of the grid in F1? Like, I I don't think that like even Colton Herta, like, does he really want to go to Cadillac to go sit in the back of the grid? Maybe, but like he has a much better chance of winning and having meaningful races in IndyCar at this stage. So, look, I understand. Like F1, Pelot's goal was to make it to F1. It didn't work out. But you know what? He's winning somewhere else right now. Why would he leave?
Hmm. And I think it's you said it perfectly. I think it's cool to get more crossover. I'd love to see him at a road course. I'm trying to think of teams he could go to. I would tend to think it's not going to be Toyota team because he drives with Honda. Honda's biggest competitor is Toyota. I think they'd be more likely to lean him to Chevy or and definitely Ford would be their first choice. But you got to look at where the connections lie, Ethan. Palou drives
Mhm.
for Chip Ganassi Racing. Who did Chip Ganassi sell his NASCAR side to? Trackhouse. What does Trackhouse have? A Project 91 car. I think that car could be where the connections lie. I've also seen Spire because Spire has been involved with Andretti, maybe connection there, but I don't quite see that necessarily. But yeah, I think the Project 91 car might have a yellow and red DHL livery or wrap on it some point soon, and I'd love to see that. And the final piece of IndyCar news, Michael Cannon rejoins Coyne in engineering overhaul. Cannon, he's kind of a guy who's had an interesting reputation on the grid, is that he can bring teams up a lot, but he's kind of a very abrasive guy to work with on my way or the highway. So it'll be interesting. We've seen some decent results with the 18 teams so far. That's the team he's going to be working with more closely. So we'll see how that team can progress as they're probably one of the two worst teams out there on the grid, them and Prema, I would say this year. So they need to move forward. And I think that might be the guy to help them. Moving on to the NASCAR news, 26 NASCAR Hall of Fame class. It was announced of Kurt Busch and Harry Gant from the modern era. and Ray Hendrick from the Pioneer era. I kind of went into my why some people should go in on a previous show. I think that was about 4 or 5 episodes ago, so you should go check that out. But I like the Kurt Busch pick. Harry Gant and Ray Hendrick, I'm not so sure on personally. But regardless, cool to see three legends, and we'll see how the the next who gets in next. Elton Sawyer talked, and he said that NASCAR discusses adding horsepower to Cup Car daily. And this has kind of been new kind of rumors. 750 horsepower expected at short tracks soon. Hallelujah! The fans and the drivers are getting what they want. More horsepower. Something I'd like to see. Give these cars power. Make them slip and slide on their own. Make them a little, maybe make them a little hard to drive. But we'll see how it affects the racing at this point. They've tried everything else. See if this works. Hopefully it does. I know. I'd like to see it. William Byron inks a 4-year Hendrick contract extension. That's going to put him to the end of 2029. And yeah, he's clearly deserved it. Been a top contender in the Cup Series year in and year out at this point. And if they were to let him go, it would be silly. If he were to leave, it would be silly because it's arguably the best team in NASCAR, and you aren't going to find any other drivers more deserving than Byron at this point. So it makes sense. Speaking of extensions, Kyle Busch gets a 1-year extension at Richard Childress. That's going to be the end of 26. And yeah, I doesn't make sense for him to go anywhere else. I think the only there's after your Kendrick, Penske, Gibbs, there's a tier of that next on your next tier, and RCR is in that second tier. I believe at the bottom end of that tier though, so it doesn't really make sense to have him go to a Spire or Trackhouse or 2311 when he has the familiarity at RCR. I don't really see any of those seats in the your big three opening up, so that makes sense. I think it's a smart move. We'll see what the 2026 off season landscape is because I think that could be an interesting one. Um, we've got some open team news. Will Brown joins Colleague Racing for Chicago Street Race. Supercar driver, that will be his second start. I believe he did decent in his first one at Sonoma. I believe, and we'll see how he does here in a third Colleague car. That's going to be the first time the Colleague's going to enter the 13 this year. And Ethan, we're going to have
Yeah,
two cars missing uh, the Chicago street race. That's going to be the first time since 2020 Texas that a non-Daytona 500 is going to have over 40 cars. So that's something cool to see.
that's cool.
We'll have Josh Bilicki in the 66, BJ or Catherine Legg in the 78, Austin Hill in the 33, and Corey Heim in the 67 alongside Will Brown. It's kind of nice myriad of drivers there. JJ Yaley and NY Racing had 2 races, Nashville and the finale Phoenix. Landed help with, I believe, some sort of sports book there. So that's always cool to see more open teams joining races. Only so far, Ethan. We've only had one race where there wasn't an open car. That was Las Vegas one. And looking forward, Michigan and Pocono which is in 1 week and in 3 weeks respectively. Those are two rides, 2 races that don't have any car confirmed to show up. And then we have we've got a good stretch of races after that. Only two more between that and Darlington, which is the first race of the playoffs. Yeah, the first race of the playoffs. So that's pretty good at this point. So we'll probably see some open cars enter those 4 races that I mentioned. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that goes on. The appeal panel amends Buscher's penalty. Uh, there is still is a penalty, but instead of 60 points, it's only 30 points. That cuts it in half. So Chris Buscher is now 16th in points, the first guy out, 6 points behind uh, third, 6 points behind 16th playoff points guy Ryan Preece. So that's huge from being 6 to 36. Uh, Gives him a chance to be in the playoffs. We'll see how these uh, final half of the regular season goes at this point. We've completed half of the regular season already. Crazy to say. A couple minor pieces of news here. Ford and Gene Haas Foundation launched Driving for a Difference in-season charity tournament between the five Xfinity Ford guys. That's cool. Get to do some competition for good causes. And then finally, NASCAR adding international provisionals for Xfinity race in Mexico. We'll see who uses them at this point. I don't think we have heard of any international drivers attempting that race besides Catherine Legg and Daniel Suarez, who's going to be in the 9 and the 32 and 9 respectively. I don't know if they qualify because they've done NASCAR already. We'll see. We'll see. Ethan, want to talk about some F1 news now?
Yes, sir. Um, so like I said that we would be talking about, there's some ideas on how to make Monaco a little better because obviously the two mandatory pit stops didn't work. And so the cars, that's kind of out of the control of, you know, the cars are the cars, right? So what does that leave? The track. So Alex Wurz, who is the president or the chairman, sorry, of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, uh, has listed a couple of changes to the track that could potentially make the racing a little bit better. Now, look, might as well try it, right? I mean, I don't really know how much these changes would um affect anything, but I'll list them, and then I'm gonna suggest my own change uh that I would like to maybe see implemented. But first off, Alex Wurz's first change would happen at turn 6, which is the hairpin. It is such a tight corner, Andrew. I mean, maybe like we see some moves on the first lap there, but like besides that, it is just not a good racing corner. But there is the ability to get rid of the curbs so that it's just track and wall, no curbs. And that would obviously give more racing room. You can even move the walls a little bit, I believe, um, so that there would be more room there. And then also the Nouvelle chicane, which this is Wur's biggest change, would be extending it um, an extra 80 meters and then creating a sharp 90-degree corner. This is doable. Um, and I think that it would not only be possible, but probably be better for racing. It gives a longer run. And it just creates more likely an overtake opportunity. So I would like to see that move implemented. And then his final proposal is at Rascasse, which is uh I believe the penultimate corner.
Yeah.
Um
Actually, it's
his
technically not, but basically is.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Technically isn't, but pretty much is. Um you can basically his proposal is to move the apex and create basically a sharper um or a wider um entry into the corner, and it would also be wider on exit, which would allow cars to run side by side. I would prefer cars to be able to run side by side, so I'll take that. But Andrew, my proposal is a little bit more I guess big, I suppose. Um I would like to kind of completely change an entire part of the track. You have obviously right now the way it is you have the hairpin, then you have the that right, and you have another right portier, and then you have the tunnel. In between the first right and portier, there is to the left a big roundabout. I don't know if it's really feasible, but I'm not really sure why it wouldn't be um to have cars take that roundabout, obviously in the reverse way from which traffic normally travels, because it would be a I don't know if it would be a challenging corner, but it would look to at least be an interesting corner. It would give more of a run to the Nouvelle chicane. So I think maybe that could be interesting. And look, the track has changed plenty over the years. It's not like Monaco is some sacred track that can't be touched. It's been changed plenty. So let's not be afraid to get a little crazy here, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Um,
fair.
yeah. Another piece of news is Morocco is trying to jump on to bringing NASCAR back to the continent of Africa. We've already talked about South Africa and Rwanda. Um, but in an exclusive report, Racing News 365 talked to um, Eric Boulier, who was the managing director of the French Grand Prix from 2018 to 2022, and he is trying to bring a Grand Prix to Morocco. Um, so basically, what's happening here is there is there's been an investment into Tangiers, which is like right across the whatever the strait is between Spain and Morocco. I want to say it's the Strait of Gibraltar, but I don't want to sound really dumb if it isn't. But I already said it, so I already either sound like a genius or really dumb. Um, it is the Strait of Gibraltar. I know ball. Um, so in that city in Morocco, located really close to Spain, really close to Europe, there's been a big investment into a facility that would include a racetrack, a shopping mall, hotels, marina, like a huge, huge project. And like I said, one of those things would be a Grade One circuit that would be able to host Formula One, MotoGP, WEC, a whole bunch of different stuff. It would be a purpose-built track. It would take a long time for this to be a thing that's actually like happening, but it looks like a really cool idea. I I support I support. Um, and then last bit of F1 news, Formula One and Pepsi announce a multi-year partnership with each other. F1 just collecting brand partners like Infinity Stones at this point. Um, you're seeing Pepsi join just a laundry list of other companies. F1 is saying that this will bring new experiences to the fan zones and such and such. Gatorade will become the official like name for or like the naming rights for the sprint races. So they'll be called like the Formula One Gatorade sprint races or something along those lines. The deal goes until 2030. Um, you can assume to just see a lot of Pepsi co advertising and just in general all over the place. More money for F1. I don't know. That's all. That's all really. Um,
And now for next week's race previews.
and since I do have to get out of here, I'm gonna preview Morocco. I'm all over the place. Spain, real quick. Um, Finally, we have the flexi wing clampdown. McLaren is insisting that this won't affect them. Other teams think it potentially could. The Red Bull is already a lot closer to the McLaren, anyways. Um, but we'll see how it unfolds. Basically, just the how much the wings can flex is going to be limited. Um, I think let me pull it up. I have it up somewhere. Um, 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 yeah, so the front wings are currently allowed to deflect no more than 15 millimeters. That's being reduced to 10. And then the rear wings, similar. Where is that? Where is that? Where is that? I don't know. But the wings won't be able to flex as much. McLaren says it won't affect them. Other teams say it could. That's that. F2 is going to be there. F3 is going to be there. Um, Interesting note, no one other than Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton has won at Spain since 2016. Could this be the first year? I think potentially. But Andrew, I do have to go, unfortunately. Can you
But
pull can you pull the boat into the docks,
yeah,
the car into the garage?
yeah, I don't know why you went with the boat first, but anyway, bye,
My
Ethan.
mind's all over the place right now. I got
We'll
dip.
we'll
See
talk
ya.
later. All right. So, as Ethan has now left me alone, my own thoughts. I could bring crash before the garage or bring the boat into the water. I could just say sink it. Anyway, regardless, Detroit previews. Um, the five drivers I always talk about. Alex Palou won there before. Scott Dixon won there before. There's only been two races at the current Detroit street circuit with the weird pit road that split. So I'm going to name three other drivers who I think could do well. Marcus Armstrong and Felix Rosenqvist have shown speed there before in different teams. They've been having solid years. I think they could do well this year at that race as well. Um, I'll also have Kyle Kirkwood as my fifth driver. And then the only driver in ND Next that's changing is HMD Motorsports, uh, number 18, Max Taylor. Last I saw, I'm going to fact check that for you all now. Yes, that is the case. So, yeah, see if that changes throughout the week. Nashville, as I discussed earlier, 44 Yaley of your drivers changing alongside Chad Fincham in the Garage 66 and Corey Heim in your 67. Your open cars, no changes in the regular cars. Your chartered cars, the five. I have the four previous winners there: Chastain, Elliott, Larson, and Logano. And I want the guy who's been doing well and has won they were previously in the lower series, that being Carson Hocevar, when they're in the truck series, has shown good speed lately. Honorable mentions, Priest has won there twice in trucks, Busch has won there twice in Xfinity and trucks, Dillon's won there once in trucks, Keselowski's won there twice in Xfinity, Nemechek and Allmendinger have won there once in Xfinity each. Uh, Xfinity drivers changing. 07 is Nick Lights. 14 is Logan Bearden. That's your S's Greenlight lineup. 9 for Junior Motorsports is entering with Ross Chastain this week. Corey Day's in the 17 for Hendrick Motorsports. Eric Emerald's in the 19 for Gibbs. Jeffrey Hunt is in the 24 for Sam Hunt. Catherine Legg is in the 32 for Jordan Anderson. The Joey Gase lineup is Glenn Reen in the 35 and Mason Maggio in the 53. I don't know if I saw the 45 on my entry list. I'm going to check that 'cause I don't have them written down. 45 will be Mason Massey, uh, Thomas Annunziata in the 70, and Myatt Snyder in the 91. That's for DGM with JIM. Truck Series William Sawalch is in the 1 Tricon. Clayton Green and Tyler Tomasi are in the 2 and 22 Raheem Brooks. Raheem Brothers trucks, respectively. Uh, 07 and 7 for Spire are Kyle Busch and Corey Day, respectively. Akinori Ogata is in the 63 for his own team, and Luke Fenhouse is in the 66 for Thor Sport. So now into the pick points.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Did you leave the wheel loose?
You picked a fine time to leave me loose, wheel.
Last week, my dad with the guests, they took 13 points. Ethan took 10. I took 8. So that puts the total of 143 to Ethan, 124 for myself, and the guests are at 101. So I'm just gonna get into pick points here. I'm looking at F3 and everyone has the exact same picks for each race. And I don't like that. So I'm gonna flip that. I'm going to make who I had my sprint driver my main winner and vice versa. Rafael Camara is going to be my sprint. Murray Boya is going to be my name. And Morgan, who's doing the guest picks this week, and Ethan have Boya and Kamara, respectively. Into F2, I have Victor Martins win the sprint. He's done well last year, and he's had insanely bad luck this year. I'm going to do my main pick because Jack Crawford's shown there and speed in the past, which happens to be Ethan's pick for the sprint race. Ethan is going, who he gave the Sir Lancelot Medal of Excellence to earlier with Alex Dunn, which is Morgan's sprint pick, and Morgan goes Luke Browning for the main race. For the podiums, I'll go mine first. Lando, Oscar, Max. I still think the McLaren will be the fastest car, and I do believe this is a track that Lando's had more success at compared to Oscar, so that's kind of my order there. And Max is just going to be the first car off. Ethan, similar thought. Lando P1, Max P2, Oscar P3. I think he thinks that Red Bull of Max Verstappen is going to be a little bit closer to the McLarens than I do. And then the guess of Morgan going with Oscar, Lando, and George Russell. Not quite sure why that is, but that is the case. Indy next, Ethan and I going Dennis Hauger, guess going Lockheed Hughes. And I'm not quite sure why that is, but those two have won all the Indy next races this year, so we'll see how that goes. Detroit. We all picked Alex Palou, but here's the thing. I don't think Alex Palou is going to win. And you're wondering, Andrew. The point is to pick who you think is going to win. I think Alex Palou is going to finish second or third. I think he's going to be like the distraction of winning the 500 is going to set him back a little bit. But I don't know who's the best driver at Detroit. This is not something we have a ton of data on, only 2 races. If I had to go with anyone, I'd go Kyle Kirkwood, but I think it's a safe 1 point instead of giving Ethan Guest a 1 point at this point. So I could be wrong. I could be right. We'll see with that prediction. Um, Trucks, I went Corey Heim because he's deserves a cup ride. And Guest going with Chandler Smith and Ethan going Chandler Smith as well. Um, Solid pick. He's one. I don't think he's one there in Xfinity, but on a hot streak a bit with truck races. So yeah, I went Justin Allgaier in Xfinity. I do believe he's won there in the past. Well, yeah, I guess going Ross Chastain. I think that's a very good pick. And Ethan was going Austin Hill. I don't know why he went that way. Yeah, he didn't explain any of these picks to me. So I'm just gonna leave it up to interpretation. And my interpretation in that is that it's a bad pick. We'll see what Ethan says when he sees this, or if he even sees this. Ethan, if you're watching, send me a text saying like the cow jumps over the moon or something. I don't know. And for a Cup Series, finally, I have William Byron, uh, fresh off an extension. He ran well last week until things kind of he got past. I think, and this has kind of been a Chevy track. I said 3 of the 4 drivers who won there were Chevys. So I think that's going to continue. William Byron, I think he's going to be the man this week. I guess with Kyle Busch, I'm not quite sure what that one is. And Ethan is going with Ryan Blaney. I think that's a solid pick. So that's a total of 11 races this week. Or actually, no, that's not. That's 12. My math isn't mathing. I believe that's the most we've had in this episode this season. Yes, it is. I don't know. Let me see. Is that the most we're gonna have all year? Um, no, we're gonna have 14 in a weekend later. That's gonna be the most. So this is the second most we're gonna have all weekend. Excuse me, big points up for grabs. Critical weekend. To see as the pick points are 143 to Ethan, 124 to myself, the guess 101. So very close to every, well, not very close, but we're all kind of within striking distance of each other. So we'll see if uh, big moves are had with these big points up. Ethan is probably, if he were here, he'd say goodbye. He's not, so he can't say goodbye to you. But I will. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Blue Wheels Show, episode 21. And Ethan will be back in full next week. Otherwise, he's going to make me look like a liar because I just said that. Goodbye.
And now for next week's race picks.